Tonight we have Camille with us. She's a graduate of University of Tennessee with a bachelor's in aerospace engineering. She graduated in the class of 2019 and is currently working with Lockheed Martin Space in Denver, Colorado. And for anyone who isn't familiar, Lockheed Martin has been a fairly large contributor to the space race over the last couple decades, working with NASA. So I'm just going to get the acknowledgement of the indigenous people for UFV kind of done with here. So before we get totally underway, we just want to acknowledge that the land that UFV resides on was originally occupied by the Stolo people, which means the people of the river, long before Canada was formed. They lived in the Fraser Valley and the lower Fraser Canyon of British Columbia, and I can't pronounce the dialect that they spoke, but it is known as the Upper River dialect. So for reasons not of butchering that for their respect, I won't be trying to say it. UFV and the PSA recognize and honor the contribution that the indigenous people have made and continue to make to our community, and the university supports indigenous learners and seeks to incorporate indigenous ways of learning in their curriculum. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Camille, who's going to kind of tell us about her kind of story as she's made her way into engineering.
Hey guys, thank you, Garrett. Thanks so much. So yes, my name is Camille Calabeo, and I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. So I am from the East Coast of the United States, and I currently live in Colorado, working at Lockheed Martin Space. And then I apologize for my really bad lighting. I'm actually on the East Coast with my husband's family right now for personal reasons, so kind of makeshifting everything here. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I don't really like lecturing, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about my background, how I got here, what I do now, and my side gig, the Galactic Gal, which is how Annabelle found me. And then I'm just going to open it up to any questions. So if you guys wouldn't mind just holding questions till after I'm done with my little presentation. So I'm going to share my screen, and again, because I'm not at home, I only have my iPad here, so I think my camera is going to be turned off when I share. So it's the Peninsula, and if you guys are familiar with where we launch things out of in the United States, we launch things out of Cape Canaveral at Kennedy Space Center. That's on the eastern coast of Florida. So I might have been separated by a couple hours, but what was really cool is that I could still see the space shuttles launching. And so when I was 4, December 5th, actually, I still remember that day for some reason. It was my first memory. And that in that little red circle there is the Space Shuttle Endeavour launching. And I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't hear anything, but I could see it. I could see it launching. I mean, you can see the plumes down there, and it's just absolutely insane that you're 3 to 4 hours away and you can still see it. And then there on the right is little me in preschool. And I think it's just so fitting. That was our preschool graduation. Of course, they had no idea that I loved space and that I was going to eventually be an aerospace engineer. But, I think things happen for a reason, and maybe that was a sign. But ever since that day, I looked up at my parents. I was 4, and I said, I want to be an astronaut. And I don't want to be an astronaut now. I mean, I probably wouldn't turn it away if I had the opportunity to, but it's not my ultimate goal. It's not, everything I live and die for. But kind of along that way, my parents really encouraged me growing up to, really harness that love of space and STEM in general. I was really good at math and science. And I was, I felt really supported academically, but, growing up, I think it's a lot better now than it used to be. And I'm not familiar with how Canada's society is in terms of women and girls in STEM, but at least here in the States, and when I was growing up in the early 2000s, it really wasn't a thing, and it wasn't supported. And so, here I was in elementary and middle school, and I was being teased and shunned, and I wasn't the popular kid at all. And, I didn't really have that many friends. and I was an only child. And so it was really hard for me. As an only child, especially, like, I just really wanted that acceptance, and, to not be the super unpopular, not cool kid who liked math and science and who was really, really smart and really good at that stuff. And so, kind of along the way, and I'm sorry if it keeps telling tap to hold. Okay, there we go. So I skied for a while. I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina after we moved back from Florida. I danced competitively, something called clogging. It's an Appalachian dance similar to tap in Irish. And so I was really into like arts as well. And I think I really harnessed that a lot because it was more acceptable for a young girl to be interested in the arts. And just, creative things, or even sports was okay. But like, God forbid you liked math and science, that was not okay for some reason. And, like I said, I think we've done a really great job making progress on that, but there's still a lot to go. And so then in middle school, I have a funny story here. So my dad has a music performance degree, and he wanted me to play in the band. He just thought it was a good character building opportunity for me. And he's like, you don't have to do it in high school. You don't have to do it in college, but I want you to do it in middle school, just to at least get that experience. And, I wanted to play flute because that is what all my girlfriends played. And, it kind of added to, I wanted to be popular. And my dad bribed me because he plays tuba. And so if you're in the music world at all, you know that, I think brass players have a negative connotation with people who play flute, which for no reason at all. But I think he knew that I was going to be good at trumpet. I think dads, parents in general know everything. And so he bribed me, and he offered me a nice shiny new trumpet or a pawn shop flute. And of course, being 11, 12 years old, 6th grade, I picked the nice shiny new trumpet. And he was right. It came naturally to me. And yes, trumpet was still very, very male dominated, but at least it was music and it wasn't math and science. And so at least I was a little bit more accepted, right, doing that and not just being obsessed with space. And so I ended up going to the University of North Carolina School of the Arts for high school. And that's that middle picture there. And UNCSA is a one-of-its-kind university in the entire world, and it combines high school and college into one school, and it's a boarding school for high school. And so I went there, and I lived away from home at 15. I was about an hour and a half away from home, and I still got my normal high school diploma. I still took the same classes, but I had a focus on trumpet, and I played like 6 hours a day, and I was competing all over the country. And the point of me telling you that, for multiple reasons. First and foremost, like, as you can see here, I feel like I'm a very well-rounded person. And I think that's really important. I think, as engineers, a lot of times our physics students, right, it's maybe stigma that you shouldn't do anything other than your classes, or you shouldn't do anything if you're, outside of engineering or physics or STEM in general. But I think that's 100% not the case. And I really think that you should harness whatever you're interested in, because at the end of the day, it makes you a better person. It brings passion to your life, and it makes you well-rounded, and that those experiences give you a unique perspective than your peers may have, and vice versa. Their experiences make them unique. And I think that that's really important, is to be multifaceted. But secondly, the reason I'm telling you that is because when I was there, it was really the first time that I was exposed to the idea that I could do anything that I wanted to do. And I think there we were all weird. I think we were all artists. And I think that just comes with its own level of weirdness, if you will. And so when I was there, I saw that I was able to do, whatever I wanted to do. And it was okay that I wasn't super popular. I think we all fit in our own ways there. And so I realized that I was missing something, and I really liked trumpet. I was good at it. Like I said, I was competing. I was getting job offers at 16, but I was missing something. And what I found that was math and science. And I went back to when I was a kid, how I really pushed that love of STEM and space, really far, deep down into me, because I was embarrassed of it. And I wasn't supported as a young girl other than with my parents. And I also saw for the first time that like there were opportunities outside of my really small town. I grew up in a very, very small rural town in North Carolina that didn't have a lot of opportunities. And most of the people I went to school with are still living there today and they don't have, a college education, or they don't have a good job. But leaving that small town and going to this school, I saw like there were so many things out there waiting for me, and I could do whatever I wanted to do. And so I decided that I was going to go to college, university. I'm not sure what you guys call it in Canada. I know all my British friends call it uni, but I decided I was going to go to college and study some sort of math and music. And I still wanted music, but I really wanted to make my career math related. And I had no idea what that looked like. I didn't know what was out there for me still, but when I started touring universities, I figured that out. And I figured out that math was not for me. It was very theoretical and I wanted hands-on. And so I went down to the engineering college and I toured, and I saw women in engineering, and I saw women giving me a tour of the college, and they seemed fine. They had friends. They were normal in that sense, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is very different for me. And so with that, I ended up at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. So it's a couple hours outside of my hometown. One of the reasons I ended up there. Second, I just absolutely loved it. And I hope that you guys feel that same way about UFV. You just feel at home there, and you feel supported, and you feel like you have resources. And, this is amazing that you guys get to have Zoom now in a way that we never had before. I mean, I did not have this in college. When I was president of organizations, we had to have everything in person, and that limited us. And I know, being on Zoom is limiting in many other ways for sure, but having the ability to talk to somebody in the United States without having to fly them to Canada is just something that we never even thought of in college. But, there I was in the band. I decided not to actually study music after the first semester. I dropped the major, but I was in the marching band. And I've just had so many great experiences, and I have a few here. So that the top picture with the red circle on it is a wind tunnel. I worked at the University of Tennessee Space Institute. After my first year, actually, I had no idea what I was doing. I was a freshman and I literally knew nothing. But I was able to get that opportunity, and it was just like a really, really good learning opportunity. I got to work with wind tunnels and data analysis and building wind tunnels, and actually performing the tests as well, and seeing these hypersonic wind tunnels in action. That was really, really cool. And then I got to visit a few NASA facilities during that as well. And the middle picture there with all the engines, that's Pratt & Whitney. Pratt & Whitney actually has a Canada office, and I want to go visit someday, and it's in Montreal. But I worked on Pratt & Whitney engines on the commercial side of things. So, their engines are on some big Boeing aircraft, but the commercial engines are mainly on like small commercial business jets. And their big thing is military engines. So they have their F-135 engine on the F-35 fighter jet that Lockheed Martin actually built. So that was really cool as well. I was in Connecticut for that one. And then, I had great experiences. The one on the bottom left is me meeting an astronaut, and I met a few there, and a few were actually University of Tennessee alumni, which was amazing. And so that was kind of my college experience. I had a few internships, and I'll get to my last one here in a second because it turned into my full-time job. And I was involved with organizations just like you are, with this physics association, extracurriculars. And again, I think it's so important to be well-rounded. I think it's, I was in the band and I was in engineering. Yes, it was hard and sometimes it was hell, but I did it, right? And whatever you guys are interested in, I think it's so great that not only are you doing your classes, but you're also involved with the Physics Association and whatever else that you guys are involved in. I think that's absolutely amazing and such a critical part of going to university. And so my third internship was at Lockheed Martin Space in Denver, Colorado. I worked on Artemis. I worked on the Orion capsule. If you guys aren't familiar with Orion or Artemis, Artemis is sending us back to the moon, and us as in the entire world. We actually have an agreement with Canada to send a Canadian astronaut on that mission, which is absolutely phenomenal. The international partnerships that we've developed, and it's another big reason I'm so into space, just seeing how collaborative we can be if we put our minds together and what we can achieve. And Orion is the component of Artemis that's actually sending the crew to the moon and eventually to Mars. And it will deliver crew to the human landing system, another Apollo lander. It's the next generation of that, whatever it's going to be called, and down to the surface. And then there's also going to be a lunar gateway that kind of lives around the moon, like a mini international space station is what I like to call it. And so Orion is the key to getting us back to the moon and having a long-term presence there, not just like Apollo, where we went there and then left and never went back for 50 plus years, which absolutely blows my mind. I cannot believe we haven't been there in so long. And so I got to work on Orion, which was amazing. I got to go down to Kennedy Space Center and see Orion being built, Artemis 1 and 2. Honestly so insane. And then I worked on a satellite program that I absolutely can't talk about ever, which sucks, but it was also really cool just seeing, I think Garrett at the beginning talked about how Lockheed has been involved with NASA and the commercial programs a lot, building the solid rocket boosters for the shuttle. But we also have a huge military component that protects the US and our allies, including Canada, of course. And so I worked on a satellite program, super, super secret, but just going to work every day and knowing that what I'm doing is helping our war fighters in the Middle East and wherever, every single day. It was just so eye-opening and really humbling for me. And so after I worked on those two, I worked as a traditional engineer on those two, first working with CAD and the mechanical components, and then next working with code and mission code, like code that ran our mission on that satellite. I decided that engineering wasn't for me, like traditional engineering, hardcore coding and CAD, things like that. I wanted to be, as you can tell, I talk a lot. So I wanted to be in business, and I wanted to be using my engineering skill set, but in a business perspective, and going out and winning our business and talking with our customers and talking with partners, including international partners. In fact, I'm working with a Canadian company right now on one of their technologies. So it's super cool just getting to talk to all these different countries and all these different partnerships or partners and customers, and working on technology that's ranging from the state of the moon in 2040 to how are we going to deal with climate change on a large scale using space technology. And so that's what I'm in now. It's called a business development analyst in capture management. So it's a fancy word for sales. That's what the aerospace industry uses. I'm not a salesperson, but it's a lot more than that, I'd say, but it's very similar. Just going out, working with customers, understanding their mission, understanding how our technology meets their missions and what technology we need to develop to help their mission in the future. And then these other pictures here kind of segue into the Galactic Gal, which is how Annabelle found me. And so the Galactic Gal is a science communication, engineering communication platform that I started last May. And it's primarily on Instagram. I'm trying to branch out, but with a full-time job, it's very hard to do that. But I started it on a whim. I just posted about a SpaceX launch, Demo 2, when they launched the first commercial crew. And I just found like all these space lovers from around the world. And I realized that we could use the power of social media to change people's lives in a better way than everything else that social media is used for. And not saying that it's bad, but that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to use it in a way to educate people and reach people that we may or may not be able to reach normally, especially coming from that rural background of mine. I didn't know what was out there for me. And I'm sure I know for a fact that there are so many other people out there who are experiencing that same thing. They live in a rural community or an underrepresented community, and they don't have access to what they actually want to do, and they don't know what they can do, and they don't know what they want to do because of that. And so the Galactic Gal now is all about making space accessible to everyone, talking about aerospace concepts in a way that anybody can understand. I'm a huge believer of it's about how you teach it, not what the concept is. It's about how you teach the concept. And if you teach it right, then anybody can learn it. I cover really big space news like SpaceX launches, things like that. I am Lockheed Martin's social media ambassador. So here are all my pictures at Lockheed Martin we build GPS. So when you open Google Maps, you get GPS that comes from a Lockheed Martin satellite, 4 of them at any given time, actually. And there's about 30 of them in orbit right now. And then other things like OSIRIS-REx, if you guys are familiar with that mission, that's the first time that NASA is going to bring back a sample from an asteroid. The asteroid's called Bennu. Lockheed Martin built OSIRIS-REx. It's been, I think it launched in 2016 or 17. It just touched the asteroid and collected more sample than we could have ever asked for. And it'll come back home in a couple months and then return home in September of 2024, I believe, maybe 2023. I can't remember. But so yeah, we do really, really awesome things, cutting edge technologies. Lockheed does have a Canada office. We do work with a lot of Canadian partners, including the Canadian Space Agency. And a big question that I get asked a lot is, do you have to be a US citizen? The answer is no, you just have to be a permanent resident if you want to work at the Lockheed in the States. But again, we do have a Lockheed Canada as well, if you're interested in that. And then I think so here are just some more things that Lockheed builds. So the one on the left here is OSIRIS-REx, touching the asteroid. That's an artist rendition, of course. The top right is Orion. Again, as I mentioned, that will carry 4 astronauts to the moon, connect with the gateway, connect with the lander, and then eventually it will connect to something that will take us to Mars. The red picture in the bottom middle is actually Perseverance. So if you guys watched that a couple weeks ago, February 18th, Perseverance just landed on Mars. It's our 5th Mars rover, and Lockheed has been a part of every Mars mission ever. We built a few things for it, but mainly we built the heat shield and the back shell, so everything that protects it upon entry. The next picture to the right is the human landing system. We've partnered with Blue Origin, just Jeff Bezos' company. Blue is the prime on that, so they're the ones leading the effort, and we're supplying our expertise on life support systems and some other things that we've developed with Orion over the past, 12, 13 years. And then the one on the far right bottom is that GPS satellite that I mentioned that gives you GPS on your phone. And then here's some other things I've done with the Galactic Gal. So I've covered, like I said, I covered the Mars, the Perseverance landing. That's the one on the top right. That's the heat shield we built, as well as the top left is Ingenuity. If you guys have been following the Perseverance landing, you know that Ingenuity is the first powered flight on another planet, which is absolutely insane. It's a cute little helicopter, but it's a really good, crazy engineering feat because the Martian atmosphere is 100 times less dense than Earth. So Ingenuity has to be lighter than we would have to have here on Earth, and the wings, the blades have to be much, much larger and spin much faster. We built the deployment system for that, so it has not been deployed yet. They're still checking out the vehicle, but when it does get deployed, the way that it gets off of Perseverance is Lockheed Martin's technology. The bottom left is we built Juno, the spacecraft that went to Jupiter, things like that I've covered. Orion and Mars and the SpaceX landings and stuff like that. So yes, I do cover a lot of Lockheed stuff, but that's not my primary thing. In fact, I think I covered 2 things last fall, and then the first one I did was this past February. But my whole goal here is, as I mentioned before, just to make space, whatever that may be, the moon, Mars, planetary facts, whatever, all the way down to antennas on a GPS satellite, just making all of that accessible to everyone. And it's been really, really awesome. I started it last May, and I think I'm at like 23,000 on Instagram at this point. And it's not about the numbers for me. It's not about any sort of monetary value at all. It's just reaching as many people as I possibly can. And my absolute favorite thing to do is talk to universities and student groups, and just speaking events is absolutely the best part of this. And I'm so excited to be here today. And so with that, so here you can find, it's just the Galactic Gal on every platform. And then I do have a blog. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing so I can come back and see you guys. So that's just how I got to where I am now, what I do now, my passions. And I just want to open it up to any questions that you guys may have. I want to get to know you guys some. Of course, I'm not familiar at all with UFV. I just learned about your indigenous people, which oh my God, that was just so cool that you guys, have that experience and have that history. But yeah, so any questions you guys have about absolutely literally anything, I'm here to answer them, advice, whatever.
I actually do have a question for you. So
yeah.
you were talking a little bit about being a woman in STEM and how we're underrepresented. Could you talk about your university experience just a little bit on how you felt as one of the only, women being in those rooms and how you kind of got past that and kept going?
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, I was only one of 2 graduating women in my class of probably about 50. And so, I mean, we were absolute best friends, but it was just us in the room. And in my work experience too, I've definitely been in more rooms than not where I'm the only woman in the room. And so actually one of the reasons I picked the University of Tennessee was because of their Women in STEM programs. So they had a really great Women in STEM support network. They had the Society of Women Engineers, a couple other women support groups. And then they also, freshman year, I lived in a dorm with all other women engineers. And it was really cool just to be on a floor with a couple hundred other girls who were all in engineering. And I say only 2, but in my class, but only 2 in the aerospace class. But of course we had biomedical and chemical and all sorts of engineerings. And we really bonded together. We studied together. We, went through the adversities together. But I think ultimately what helped me is just owning the fact that I was a woman and not trying to conform to how, men type, right? I've seen this so much going around on Instagram lately, just men changing my email to look like a man, right? You know what I'm talking about. And
yeah, I've seen that too, where they take away the explanation marks, and it's you don't have to do that.
Yeah, which is there's nothing wrong with either side. It's just, right, women have a different perspective on the world, men have a different perspective on the world, and just harnessing your masculinity or harnessing your femininity. You just have to really just be yourself. I think that's the big thing for me, is that I succeeded in college. And I really tried not to give into that adversity because I was confident. Not at the beginning, but I learned over the years to be confident in myself, to be confident in my femininity, to maintain that, to embrace that. And that's really a huge part of my platform now is encouraging women to maintain and embrace their femininity. And, I think another thing is just making it aware to men what helps us, what tears us down, how they can be allies, how all of you can be allies for us. Just there's so many things. But I think what really did it for me was the support that I had, knowing that I had other women going through it with me, and then just not being apologetic about who I am and how I act.
Thank you so much. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, you can put it on the chat. You can unmute yourself, have at her. I have one more, but I don't want to interrupt anyone else. So I'll give it a minute, and then I'll just ask if no one's going to.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Here, I'll put a face. I was just wondering, which astronaut did you meet?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've met Butch Wilmore. He actually went to the University of Tennessee. I've met Nicole Scott. She's the artistic astronaut. And then, oh my God, I can't remember the other one. I can't remember her name, but I met a few. And then Scott Kelly, he's the one who spent a year in space. He also went to the University of Tennessee, and he actually lives 5 minutes down the road from me. He just moved. I've been trying to every time I go to the grocery store, it's so we live in Denver. It's a huge city. But we live in the suburbs of it. And so our little suburb has one grocery store, one everything. And every time I go to the store, I'm Scott Kelly, I know you have to shop here.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so much fun.
I know. I'll let you guys know if I ever meet him. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try.
Yeah. Bring a piece of paper with you.
Help me blow up the Galactic Gal and we can meet him.
Sounds good.
What were you saying?
Good. I was saying bring a piece of paper with you everywhere you go just to get his signature.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Camille, actually, you inspired our team. So at the Physics Student Association, we have something called Space Sundays, and it was actually inspired by you. I found you on Instagram and started following you, and Madison here, who just asked the question, she wants to be an astronaut. So she is our host of Space Sundays, and yeah, that was just the connection there. So yeah, thank you for inspiring us, and yeah.
Oh my gosh. What is Space Sundays? Is it like a podcast or what is it?
It was basically just a little text post of like a fun space fact. So like oh shoot, what did I do this Sunday? Let me check. Oh, I think I did dwarf planets this Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll be like galaxies, types of galaxies, fun little posts like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I do have a question for you. So it's for the Galactic Gal. How did you start it? Like, do you remember your first post and you were like, this is what I do? Or how did you start it, I guess is my question.
Okay, so long before, like not long, but like a couple months, like 6 to 8 months before the Galactic Gal became a thing. So my husband is Italian, and we went over to Italy after graduation, and we met his family and everything. And we, because we were there with his family, we went to all these places that were not touristy. We did all these really unique experiences, ate unique foods, things like that. And I've always been into writing, and I think I had a blog in high school, and I think I wrote like 2 posts on it, things like that. But I wanted it to be a way to for me to remember all these unique things that we did. But I didn't have a blog. I didn't have, an Instagram other than my personal one, things like that. And so my husband really encouraged me to start something. And so I started it just with my name basically. And I was so convinced that I was going to be a travel influencer. And I look back now, what was I doing? And so I made a blog, and it looks very different than it does now. And I made it, I just turned my Instagram into that. So I started with my 1,000 friends or whatever. I don't even know that many people, but people that I had met over the years. And I literally was it was so bad. It's honestly embarrassing. Actually, I have a reel that I did. It was just so embarrassing. But, and in fact, because it took me so long to get everything up and running, by the time I actually made my blog post about Italy, I forgot everything. So it was just really sad, but you could tell I wasn't really into it. And another thing is my best friend is actually in that travel, fashion world. And so I was going off what she was doing, but you could tell I wasn't passionate about it. And I was just so miserable. And so I just quit. I think I got it to 2,000 followers over 7 months or something like that. I never posted it. I just quit. And then while I was still doing that, I still had the fashion travel, people following me. I was okay, I'm gonna maybe start doing some space posts on my blog. And no one reads blogs unless they're super helpful, right? And so I didn't change my name to the Galactic Gal or anything like that, but I started making space posts, and no one read them. And so I just got super discouraged, and I was this just isn't for me. There's not a place for me. Which I guess now talking about it goes back into my whole I just wanted to be accepted thing growing up, right? And so I quit, and I didn't post for months at a time. And then SpaceX happened. You guys know Demo 2, right? With the crew jag and everything. And I just posted about it. I was I'm just gonna make this my personal Instagram again, whatever. People will unfollow me, I don't care. And so I posted about it, and it blew up. 3,000 likes. I had 0 followers. And I was what the heck? Where are these people coming from? And then I started looking at these hashtags, and I looked at women in STEM, and I found a community called Engineering Gals. And I was holy crap, there's a whole STEM side of Instagram and STEM and Instagram, things like that in general. And so then I think I had rebranded my name at that point, a few months before that, when I tried to do my space content, which wasn't working. And so I just started doing it again, and my posts were doing so well. And it was because I found that niche, and I found those people that wanted space content. And so I just completely rebranded. I deleted everything that wasn't space, basically started over. That was at the end of last May. And then it kind of evolved. At first I was talking about space concepts, why you have to launch at a very specific time, how do you get to Mars, things like that. And then I think over time, the more content I got, I started talking about just literally all things space and women in STEM. And now I have so much content, I can't ever fit it in. And then it's honestly just snowballed, which I think happens to most everybody. You just get a little bit of traction, and then it just absolutely snowballs. So I don't know if you saw my post today, and unfortunately, we could only limit it to people who lived in the US for this round because of stupid COVID. But next time, because we're going to do it again, but I'm flying on a zero gravity flight for free. And I get to bring somebody with me for free, which is, it's a $7,000 flight normally in US dollars. And so I can't afford that. Most people can't afford that. But I get to share it with somebody. And that was my whole stipulation, is they wanted to bring me. And I was like, we got to bring someone else, because I'm going to open a door and I'm going to bring people with me. I'm going to leave it open for them, because it just, anyways, that was a whole long story. But it started as like fashion travel was so bad, and now it's here. And I don't know where it's going to go in the future, but we'll see.
Well, we're very thankful for the platform that you do have. We've definitely learned a lot, and it's inspired our Space Sunday segment with Madison.
I absolutely love that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Is it on your Instagram?
It is, yeah. It's
okay.
Our at UFV PSA. It's where I reached out to you, I think.
Okay.
So it should be there. But
okay.
Yeah, does anyone have any other questions? We can monitor the chat, or you can pop on.
That's a great question. So I went to Kennedy, and like I've been there as a visitor, but I worked there. It was almost 2 years ago now. So I honestly have never been asked that question, so I wasn't paying attention. But what I've seen with like people working at NASA, or at Lockheed, I work at a facility with like 10,000 people. I definitely think yes, like over the years, and I even noticed a difference between like my graduating class and incoming class when I graduated. I definitely think yes, and I think the stat is that like women make up like 25% of STEM in general, and aerospace is way lower than that for sure. But it's getting there. I think there's a lot of things we have to work on. From age 0 all the way up to death, right? But like, I mean, younger kids, we need to make it normal for them to like STEM. And I think that comes with parental supervision on how all kids, and it's not just men, there are other women, it's not just boys, there are girls that do this too. But I think it comes with parental guidance and setting a good example from a young age that you don't tease somebody because they are smart and they like math and science. You are inclusive of everybody. And I think we're getting there. Sorry, it's coming down. And then, as we grow up, I think just having that, having resources. So like engineering classes, and maybe engineering classes specifically for girls, so that they learn engineering in an environment that's comfortable for them, and then they can go learn engineering in an environment that is a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more comfortable, and you work your way up. Engineering camp, STEM camp, science camp, and also making it normal for kids to do that and not just going to a pure summer camp. Resources in schools, and that moves up through university. Just having more women in STEM resources, opportunities. One of the things that I got to do was I had access to a lot more research opportunities my freshman year than my male counterparts did. And I say that I have more, but it actually leveled the playing field, because they had opportunities that were like just for women, and that ultimately worked out where we had the same amount of opportunities as men. And I think we're going to have to do that for a little bit until it becomes normal, where we don't have to have a women in STEM specific program. And it's kind of just like where companies right now are having to go out and hire at these minority Black schools, because we don't have a lot of African-American representation. And right now we need to build that up until it becomes normal that you can hire from everywhere, right? And so I literally don't believe in I think even feminism goes a little bit far extreme, but the whole point of women in STEM is not to make women higher than men. It's to equalize it, right? And to have the same opportunities. And I think right now, we're here and we have to have a lot more opportunities for women until we get to here, and at which point it can level out. Yeah, I mean, that, and I think it really just comes down to like resources and support networks, like having that environment that I lived in freshman year. Things like that are really, really important. And so I kind of went off on a tangent. Sorry, I talk a lot. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. I actually saw something on Instagram the other day, and it was saying, never in a time before this have you been able to go on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or whatever and search for a woman in astrophysics or something like that and find somebody, or search for a woman in biology or a woman in aerospace or a woman in mechanical or whatever, like very male dominated fields. Maybe biology isn't, that was a weird example, but a woman in XYZ, and you're gonna find somebody on social media. And I think that's the whole, that's where it really starts, is because you can have a young girl who looks like me find me on Instagram and say, I look like her. Oh my God, what is she doing? And then she follows me, and then she sees what I do and sees what she can do. And it just opens her eyes to so many new things that she may or may not have been exposed to before. Yeah, I think like initially it was the university, because they put us on a floor with all women in engineering. They, you know, really hammered like the Society of Women Engineers starting out. They had a Women in Engineering Day, a women's, I don't remember what it's, Women Engineers Day, so like they combined it. So I think they started it, and they were able to give us that foundation and that support network where we met all the other women, and it wasn't like I didn't know any of them because I lived on a floor of all boys. And then I went to class one day and saw another girl and like got scared to go talk to her. Like, because I also think there's an issue where like women are competitive against each other. And I think that is also getting better, but it's still a factor. And then I think once we built that support system, we were able to like continue to build it. And then we took our group and we mentored the class under us and the class under them, and you know, things like that. I think it snowballed after that, but it really was like the university acknowledging the fact that they needed to do something up front to get us all together, and then we could go from there.
I have a question.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, my name's Tessa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So my question was kind of playing off of what you're talking about, you know, seeing scientists on TikTok and Instagram, and maybe not even just women oriented, but just scientists in general. With COVID and everything, since we're all online anyways, I think there's been this like, you know, kids spend too much time on the internet's a bad thing. But do you think going forward, maybe these platforms are sort of like the future of science and like science education, especially for kids who are in rural communities, like you said?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it goes down to like parents just need to find them for the kids and, you know, follow STEM hashtags, things like that. And really encourage the kids to be looking at content like that, and not just, okay, not to hate on her, but Charlie D'Amelio, just whatever she's doing, right? Like parents need to encourage that and make it normal. And then that kind of goes into parents need to normalize telling kids that it's not okay to tease somebody because they're smart. I think, you know, it's a parenting problem, as we all say, right? But it could be also a parenting good thing. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. And in fact, there's a woman, her name is Emily Calandrelli. And she, yeah, Annabelle, you know her. So she, okay, when I first started following her, probably 6 years ago, she probably had about as many followers as I do right now. She has a master's in aerospace engineering, and I think like it's not aerospace law, but it's like something aerospace policy, like something to that effect. And from MIT, and she's this gorgeous woman with a master's in aerospace, and now she has a Netflix show for kids, and it's all about science, and it's called Emily's Wonder Lab. And she's just absolutely blown up over the years. But when I followed her in college, my parents were in like computers, like programming and networking and stuff, but I came from an underrepresented community and I didn't know anything about aerospace or space in general. And my parents didn't know what companies I should work at other than NASA. Like NASA was the only thing I knew about. I didn't know that they contracted literally everything out to companies like Lockheed and Boeing. And I followed Emily, and at the time I'm pretty sure it was the InSight lander, the Mars lander, 2016 or something like that. So I think I was a sophomore in college. And Lockheed paid her to go to a launch and cover the launch for them. And so she was like their influencer, like what I'm doing now. And so I saw her and I learned about Lockheed. And then I was like, oh my God, that's the only place I ever want to work. Because then I learned about Orion, and it snowballed because I followed her on social media, like on Instagram. And so, yeah, I think it is. I think it's just going to take, I think it's also, one, on the parenting side of it as they're young, and two, on the platform side of it. Like TikTok did such a great job with their TikTok creator fund and their Learn on TikTok. That was amazing. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it because of my clearance at the time, but because US government hates everything China, of course. But that was so good. And there's a woman on TikTok, and she teaches in North Carolina. She's a science teacher, and her handle is Mrs. B TV. And she has 2 million followers on TikTok, and she does science videos. And so I think we're getting there, right? Like 2 million on TikTok for science videos. So yeah, I think Instagram needs to do a better job about that. I think Twitter is really great. I don't understand Twitter. I probably will never understand Twitter. But I think Twitter does it well. I think TikTok has done it well. I think Instagram needs to step up their game a little bit. Any other questions? I talk a lot. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Okay, hi.
Hi, I'm Casey. I'm actually a math student, but I do have interests in physics and whatnot. My question is, I'm sure you've had like lots of opportunities to collaborate with a bunch of engineers, but I was wondering what were some of the more memorable collaborations you made with people that were maybe biologists or mathematicians, or maybe even people outside of STEM, if you've had any of those opportunities, and what was like memorable for you?
Yeah. Let's see. So my job, well, that's a hard question. You guys are asking questions I've never been asked before. Good job. So in fact, okay, so somebody outside of STEM, my manager, business development, does the same thing I do. It's very, very much like half and half engineering and business. He has an English degree, and he worked in Hollywood. And now he is a very high up at Lockheed Martin. And I just absolutely love working with him. He thinks very differently. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying, like all these experiences that you guys have, like you coming from math and being interested in physics, that gives you a different perspective than somebody who's just in physics and interested in physics, right? And, me having an interest in music and being an engineer gives me a different perspective than somebody just being an engineer, and vice versa, right? Like they have different perspectives too. And I'm not saying either one is good or bad. But working with him is just, it's so awesome because he sees the world differently. He communicates very well. I learn a lot of communication from him. And then I teach him a lot of engineering, even though he's like 40 years older than me, but he doesn't have an engineering degree. And so we work really well together in the fact that like, we're writing all these papers to send to customers, and he is really good at the language and I'm really good at the engineering, and we combine it and it's great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Did that answer your question? Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. I think so.
Okay.
I've got another question if anyone has one. You mentioned in your slide that you wanted to become an astronaut, and then you realized like you're not gonna like eat, sleep, and breathe trying to become an astronaut. How did you come to that conclusion, I guess? Or like how did you, lead that path of straying away from astronaut?
I think it was, combination of things. I think the first thing is that like, I think you really have to be passionate about it from a young age. And I just lost that passion because of, the societal impacts. I think second, I realized that I'd have to get LASIK, and I'm never going to do that. So like, honestly, the physical restraints of being an astronaut, just kind of turned me off from it. And, you know, personal reasons, like I got married and we have dogs and everything. So I don't really want to leave for that long. And then I think like third for me, it was just like getting into the aerospace industry and seeing like how much math and science I get to do as an engineer, and realizing that like I could also work on like 20 different programs and 50,000 different technologies, whatever, that's an exaggeration, but like a ton of technologies at once. And so if I got tired of working on Orion, I could go work on a Mars mission, or I could go work on a classified satellite, or, you know, whatever. So I just like fell in love with like building everything and being on that, like the pure aerospace side that sends astronauts to space, and not like the physical, you know, reality of being an astronaut. I mean, if I could get on that Dear Moon flight, I would, but I don't even think I'm going to apply for it because I don't want to get my hopes up.
Oh, well, that's okay. Thank you for answering.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes. Hi.
Yeah, you might not be able to see me. That's okay.
Okay.
I look like a troll, so we're not going to turn on the camera there. So my question was pertaining to how did you go about deciding aerospace engineering? Because you have other interests, right? So like music, as you mentioned, because for myself, I have a lot of different interests, and even in the engineering sector, there's so many different fields in there, and it's just, how do you choose?
Yeah. No, I get that for sure. I think aerospace was mainly just because I love space. And I could have gone into mechanical engineering, and people told me to do that because it's way more versatile. And I would say absolutely not. I mean, I think mechanical is more versatile, but if you're so set on like being an aerospace engineer, there's absolutely no reason to get a mechanical degree, because a mechanical degree is just an aerospace degree is mechanical with an aerospace concentration. I like biomedical as well. And in fact, if I hadn't done aerospace, I would have done biomed because I really wanted to do medical technologies. I think like the important thing is like get an engineering degree, or, you know, whatever you're in. And I'm not sure if you're in engineering, but I think like having an engineering or physics or math, like any sort of STEM degree, sets you up for so many different jobs. And especially in engineering, like just having that engineering degree is qualification for a job in any engineering field. So if I get tired of aerospace in 5 years, I could go apply and work in some biomedical technology, right? Or try to combine that in some way, because at the end of the day, like I know the basic engineering fundamentals, and I've had enough experience that people don't care what your background is in.
Okay, yeah, because I know a few of us here are in the mechatronics program at UFV.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just mechanical and electrical, and I believe comp sci. But yeah, so I've been doing that a little bit, but I have no clue what I'm going to be doing. I think the problem is just finding the jobs has been really difficult, especially with like even co-ops and stuff have been a pain. So yeah, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, no, and I think mechatronics is so valuable and so versatile. I know finding a job right out the door is hard, especially with COVID. I can't even imagine. But I think, once you get your foot in the door, like you're going to be set whatever industry you go work in, mechatronics is needed.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I do have to go in a couple minutes, but if you guys, maybe one or two more questions.
If no one has any cues, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us and for answering all of our questions. You didn't have to do this, so we all really appreciate it. And yeah, your social media, I put it in the chat here. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much. We will be hanging out in here for a little bit. So yeah, if anyone has like another question or something, but yeah, thank you so much from all of us. You're so inspirational, and it means a lot that you're doing this for us. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Like I said, it's my favorite part of the job. I mean, I can post on Instagram all day, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? And with that being said, like my DMs are always open. It might take me a few days to get back to you, but if you have any questions, just please message me. And I will try to help or point you into the direction that somebody could help you. That's the only reason I'm doing the Galactic Gal is to help people, especially students. So what you guys are doing is so great, and stay involved in organizations like this, and don't give up, especially my ladies out there. Don't give up. And Madison, don't give up on being an astronaut. I'll believe in you. Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Thank you guys. It was so great talking to you again. My DMs are open. Let me know if you ever have any questions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Bye, guys. Nice meeting you.